We saw it in the work report that I just heard a few minutes ago from Premier Li Keqiang, where reform is pervasive throughout the entirety. You cannot help but be impressed by the sheer comprehensiveness of the work report applying to all society. And I think that in understanding China, you cannot differentiate between the economy and everything else. So you really have to consider it as a whole. The economy, political structure, the social system, the societal issues, even culture, are all part of the same ecosystem here. And reform is pervasive throughout. Applied specifically to the economy, you see several key areas. Number one, they talk about, of course, is reducing overcapacity under the big idea of supply-side structural reform, reducing in steel and coal and some of the heavy industries so that you get more efficient use of pricing mechanisms by reducing overcapacity. Secondly, reducing inventories of housing, which can control the housing market. Third is deleveraging the debt in corporations. As we saw over the last year or two, a huge increase in corporate debt and enterprise debt in China. That could be very debilitating, so that must be addressed as well, complex. The fourth, which is really interesting, is to reduce costs. There's been many complaints from Chinese enterprises that they're just overburdened, not just with taxation, but with literally hundreds of specific fees and administrative kinds of payments that has to be made to the central government, to the local government. And you see a very significant part of the work report focused on eliminating those or reducing them substantially. That's a direct reaction to Chinese enterprises complaining, particularly some of the major entrepreneurs that are more vocal and are more willing to speak out. Heads of SOEs as government officials are less likely to do so, but the private sector entrepreneurs do that. So you see reform throughout, and it's not just in the pure economic aspect of corporations. You see it in healthcare, where this is a major problem and a major interest in China. So how do you reduce costs in healthcare? Streamlining the government and making the market play a more decisive role by taking power away from the government, reducing it. So you have this pervasive concept of reform. That's the key for economic growth in China. And so the 6.5 growth rate, which they have targeted for 2017, in fact even possibly a little higher, is fine and should be appreciated. But more significantly is the commitment to reform, because that will build the economy over the long term. And to sophisticated analysts, that should be more engendering of confidence.